Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Autism Stories. I'm your host, Doug Bletcher, the founder of Autism Personal Coach. Autistic people are the true experts of the autistic experience, and Autism Stories is where we interview autistic people to learn from their stories, experiences, and get their insights. If you'd like to be notified about each week's episode of Autism Stories, we suggest you subscribe on your favorite podcast listening platform. We would also appreciate it if you could give us a positive rating and review, as it will help others to learn about autism stories. Mandy Williams joins this episode to discuss competing in the Hyrox competition, which is billed as the fitness competition for everybody. We also discuss mentorship to autistics that want to get involved in fitness and sports. We hope you enjoyed today's conversation. Mandy, thanks so much for joining me today.
I'm so excited. Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. And I wanted to start our conversation off by learning, where does your story in the autistic community begin?
I was diagnosed, it'll be 3 years ago now, just before the pandemic, because I now know what everything was, but I basically had a meltdown, which I'd always had before, but never really fully understood. And my partner sort of said to me, we need to look into this a bit more. And I went to my GP and I'd done a little bit of research because I have two children and my son was sort of stimming a lot, and I recognized that I did that. And I went to my GP and I said, look, I'm really struggling. I've been struggling for years with anxiety and depression. Nothing's working for me. I think, what's a meltdown? I'm not sure. I've done a little bit of Googling here, and I think I might be autistic. And he actually said to me, oh, I've always known. I just wanted you to come and see me about it. And I was like, what? Because he'd known me for like 20 years. And I was like, okay. And then he actually referred me. And then, as everybody probably knows, the diagnosis process can take a long time. And it took about 8 months. And then, I got the diagnosis. And like a lot of people, everything just sort of clicked into place. And my whole life suddenly made sense at the age of 47. I was 45 then. So, yeah.
Hearing your story about your GP, I'm wondering, would you have wanted him or other people to kind of like say like, hey, Mandy, I think you're autistic, or would you have wanted to kind of come to that discovery on your own?
It's very interesting because when you unlock that door, it's amazing how many people come forward and say, oh, we thought that too. And for example, my family, my mum was like, well, I knew when you were at school, but I grew up in the 80s in a very strict private school where it was like, if you were left-handed, you were in trouble. That wasn't allowed. You had to conform. And my mum was like, we knew then, but we didn't really know. I mean, women and girls were always misdiagnosed or underdiagnosed. And it's like, we didn't know. We knew something was different to your sister, but we couldn't do. I mean, a straight A student, high achieving, but I was never socially fitting in and very regimented and all the stuff. And she was like, we knew. And then it was interesting, it just unravels how many people did know. But I don't think anyone would ever go up to someone and say, it's amazing how many people we recognize as thinking, might be autistic, but we never say it. You just don't feel it's your position, do you?
Yeah. Recently, you competed in a global fitness competition that I'm excited to talk about called the Hyrox.
Mm-hmm.
For our listeners that might not have any clue about what the heck this competition is, can you tell them a little bit about it?
I can indeed. So if I say CrossFit, obviously probably a lot of people are a bit more comfortable with CrossFit. And they hate me saying that, but it's similar. It's basically 8K of running, but after every K, you do a station that has a different obstacle. And Hyrox is the same. It's actually just gone to Asia and Australia now. And they have them in New York and Chicago and everything, the championships. Basically, every station stays the same wherever you are. So you start off with 1K of running, and then you go straight to a ski machine, a ski erg, where you ski for 1,000 meters. Then you run a K again. And then I will always get this in the wrong order, so I apologize to Hyrox, I just do as I'm told. You then, basically every station is different. So there's 100 meters of lunges with a 20 kilogram sandbag is one station, 200 meters of farmer carrying 224 kilograms with kettlebells, one in each hand, 80 meters of burpee broad jumps, a sled push with 152 kilograms on, a sled pull of 103 kilograms over a big distance as well. And then you row 1,000 meters as well. And then the killer one, you do 100 wall balls, which is a 6-kilogram ball, which you basically throw 9 foot in the air at a target and catch and squat. And you do all of that. And basically, yeah, remember you are running fast in between each station as well. So it's very exciting.
I'm wondering about hearing about all those events and competitions, transitioning from one thing to the next can cause quite a bit of anxiety for many of us as autistics. How was the transitioning? How did that go for you?
Well, that's why I could never do CrossFit. I was always a runner, I had a running background, and I love running, always trained alone. I got to quite an elite level with running as I got older. And I loved the idea of, explain that in a second, about doing something a bit more interesting with my running. So I kept my fitness. But CrossFit, I thought was amazing. And I loved watching it on YouTube, but I thought, I can't just turn up and not know what I'm going to do. So you can't not tell me in advance if I'm swimming or walking on my hands. I need to know the order. And I think that's why I liked Hyrox, because it allowed me to know we're going to be in the same order. It's going to be the same disciplines. Nothing's ever going to change wherever you go in the world, whatever place you are. And I absolutely loved that. And I think that's what really appealed to me. So the transitions, it took me a while to get my head around. And as you can see now, even like probably going to the World Championship, I still get them confused in my head in the order. I know what's coming and I can practice them over and over and over again, which is I do in my training. So yeah, they don't change.
And of all those different exercises, do you have a favorite one in the competition?
Yes, I love pulling. And that calls a lot to us as autistic people, the proprioceptive system. So I didn't know about this again, but I stim a lot by flapping my hand. I'm rubbing a crystal in my hands just now, so I'm hard and stone. And to be honest, the actual pulling of that weight on a rope, I did it this morning and I want to go and do it again tonight. I absolutely love it. And pushing the weight as well. So pulling the sled is my favorite station. And the same can be said of rowing, because obviously I'm pulling in the row and pulling in the ski. So, and running is what I do anyway. So running, I can go into total focus and I'm actually in my own zone. But yeah, give me a heavy weight to pull and I'm very happy.
So I'm wondering about coordination in doing these exercises, as it can take me a while to kind of get my body to learn how to do a new exercise correctly in a way that I don't hurt myself. Were there any challenges with your coordination in doing these exercises? And if so, how did you adapt to those?
This is an amazing question. I'm so glad you're asking me this question, because I was always a substitute for the substitute team for netball at school, because I was so bad at coordination and catching a ball, like a lot of us are. And we understand, again, it's not knowing where we are and that disconnect from the object and the lack of balance I have. And the wall balls is a 6-kilogram huge wall ball I'm throwing, like double size of a basketball at a target that's 9 foot. And I'm only 5'2", and every time I went to do it, I could throw the ball past the target. That was fine, but I couldn't connect with my brain to hit the target and catch it. So I've hit myself in the face with a 6-kilogram weighted ball so many times. I bust my lip, I've hurt my nose, I busted my shoulder. I just can't catch it. So I actually went out and bought a 6-kilogram weight, sand weight, ripped open a basketball, put it inside, duct tape the basketball, and I keep it in my bathroom. And every time I go to the bathroom, I throw 5 of these wall balls just to keep practicing the coordination. Because like we all know, I'm never going to connect to an object that's not in my hands, but I can learn the muscle memory. So I'm just learning the muscle memory. Even though I have a coach and he's not asking me to do this every day I have to practice the wall balls. Yeah, and then running into people. There's a lot of people when you're running, and I can't even walk through a shop without bumping into people or a corridor. So I have to make sure I'm not running into people. I think that's my main focus as well. Yeah.
I love that story. So let me get this straight. You bust your lip, you bust your nose, you mess up your shoulder. What makes you decide, like, hey, I want to keep going at that point? Because I think a lot of people might kind of like second guess themselves and say, hey, maybe this thing isn't for me.
I don't know. I just have this inner warrior spirit, I call it, just like this. I'm like a fighter. I'm like, yeah. I don't like anything getting the better of me. I know there's some things, look, I cannot play tennis. I cannot play tennis. I cannot hit a ball. And I have just no interest in it at all. But I think because I just love the accomplishment. And if I could take wall balls out of high rocks, I probably would, put it that way. But I love the sport so much, I just have to get on with it, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now, there seems to be a lot of lifting of heavy stuff in these exercises that you do. Now, in doing these things, have you noticed any difference or support in getting your sensory needs met by lifting these heavy things?
Absolutely. And I advocate it to everybody. I was so late to this party. I was a weak runner. I never lifted a weight in my life, and now I'm deadlifting and things. And it's incredible. And yes, absolutely. Never mind being a woman in her 40s, but being an autistic woman or an autistic man or anybody, just lift weights. It's so good for that system, the regulative system. It's incredible. And the association, if you do your research into stimming and why we do all of that, and I mean, I have a weighted blanket, I basically live in compression trousers. So I love all of that. And weights is just incredible, absolutely incredible. I mean, great for your health anyway, but great for your mental health too. So absolutely, I'll never give up the weights.
Now, I believe we as autistic adults are everywhere and we're doing everything. And I think competing in the high rocks is a great example of that. So I'm wondering if you have any interest in mentoring other autistics that might want to compete in the high rocks or just want to try and learn to do some of the exercises that you're doing.
That is an aspiration of mine. Yes. I would absolutely love, which is why I agreed to do a podcast and do this, because I wish there was somebody who was even more amazing, like who had medals and everything, Olympians that would come forward and say they're autistic and they use autism to help them with the focus and everything else. And that's why I'm a massive advocate of that. So at the moment it's me, and I would love to help and encourage anybody who is autistic to get into fitness and sports and anything like this, and give them the confidence to know that they can compete and the benefits that they can get from it. Absolutely. It's a passion of mine.
Beyond this interview, how can our listeners kind of learn or if they want to connect with you?
I have an Instagram account, which I'm keeping very active. I can be a bit naughty sometimes and disappear, but I've been very good at Instagram. And it's N_D_athlete. You pop the link for me. But it's basically neurodiverse athlete, because obviously I had ADHD as well. And it was like, yes, please follow, share, reach out to me. I'm happy to talk to anyone as well and help.
So now that you've competed in the high rocks, are there other events or other aspirations you have in the future in terms of exercise competitions?
Oh, yeah. So I've done loads of running. I've done marathons, I've done ultras, I've done all of that. Tick those boxes. That's amazing. I would like to continue with high rocks, and I have to be careful because it's obviously a special interest at the moment for mine, and I'm always very protective of special interests because I really don't like it when I finish with a special interest. So I've given myself a 5-year plan on this one to get strong. Now I've learned the world of strength, and when I'm 50, I would like to compete in the pro division, because there's like a pro division, and try and get oh, do I say it on this? I would love to get a 50-year-old world record, put it that way. Okay, I've said it out loud now. Gosh, okay, pressure's on. That's what I'd like to do. So I've got 2 years to get really strong and go after it. But my running is my secret weapon, and I'm still got a lot of speed there. So I shall be using that, yes.
Well, I can't wait till when we talk when you're 50 and you have that record. That will be
amazing.
Magnificent. Yeah. I had one more question. Earlier, you were talking about rubbing crystals. So you could rub a lot of things to kind of get that input. I'm wondering, what is it about crystals that was your choice?
I like sparkly things. And it's a black quartz, which it's interesting. My daughter got me into them, but I like the smoothness on one side, so I can stroke the smoothness, and then it's rough on the other. And it's almost like I just spin it around in my fingers. Most people go into a crystal shop and say, oh, it's got this, or this is nice. I go into it and say, is that tactile? Will it can I fiddle with it in the right shape in my fingers as I'm talking? And yes, that's why. And it's sparkly. I mean, who doesn't like something that sparkles? I like unicorns and sparkly things. What can I say?
Well, Mandy, it was delightful to talk with you, get to know you a little bit. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Oh, you're more than welcome. And hopefully I'll speak to you when I'm 50 and get that world record.
Thanks so much to Mandy for the conversation. To learn more about Mandy, please check out the link in the podcast description for this episode. At Autism Personal Coach, we provide customized coaching for autistics to help improve the quality of our lives. All of our coaches are either autistic or autistic selected for their commitment to trauma-informed and neurodiversity affirming strategies. They deeply understand burnout, sensory needs, executive functioning, and the importance of special interests. If you're interested in learning more about our coaching, please visit autismpersonalcoach.com for more information. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Autism Stories. And if you did, if you could tell a friend, foe, or anyone you know about it, so they could have the same enjoyable and educational experience as you when listening to Autism Stories, it would be very much appreciated. Until next time, I'm Doug Bletcher of Autism Personal Coach. Talk to you then.